When you hear the name War Thunder, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it realistic tank combat? Is it volumetric hell? Is it flying around in your favorite 4th generation jet? Or is it LARPing as a Spitfire pilot in the Battle of Britain? I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's actually none of those things. It's probably how much of a grind the game is and how long it takes you to complete an entire tech tree, just for it to be eventually replaced by the next best jet or tank or boat that you'll either spend GE to unlock or the next couple of weeks grinding out the same game mode over and over and over again just to have the next best thing. This is a pretty vicious cycle that really any War Thunder player that's been playing for more than a couple of months or years is well accustomed to at this point. Let's be honest, it's probably the reason that most of the people still stick around and play this game regularly, myself included. And for my fellow sim players out there, right now the current meta, when you think of power creep, is going to be, let me guess, a Rafale, maybe a Eurofighter, a few months ago, F-15E, maybe before that, Gripen C. And what if I told you there's a plane out there that is more broken and deeper into the power creep meta than anything else? A plane that has the BVR capabilities of the F-15E on release, the technological advantage of the Rafale in the current meta, all in the safety of a BR range where essentially nothing can contest it. My fellow simmers, we're talking about one plane and one plane only. The scourge of the 13.0 bracket, the Kfir C10. But Mustang, I hear you say, wait, the Kfir C10, the Fox 3 slinger? It's not the only Fox 3 slinger in the game at 13.0. We have planes like the F4F Ice. We have the Premium Viggen. We have the J8F. We also have the AV8B. These are all planes that have Fox 3s that can theoretically contest this plane, right? And while in theory you're not wrong, yes, the thing about the C10 that makes it unique above all other Fox 3 slingers at 13.0 is there is not a single area, not a single aspect in which this plane lacks. Take the Premium Viggen, for example, right? It has a arguably pretty bad flight model for 13.0, but its biggest downfall is going to be its RWR. It has no IFF whatsoever. It has 4 zones. You have no idea who's looking at you, whether they're friendly, whether they're enemy, if a Fox 3 was launched at you, or if it was a Fox 1. Well, what about the Harrier? Sure, it's got great technology. It's got a good RWR, phenomenal radar. It's got 4 AIM-120s, but guess what? It's subsonic. Sure, if it catches you off guard and it's a very close range launch, you're kind of screwed. But all you have to do is look at your RWR and your Kfir C10, see F-18 just launched an MSL at you. It tells you for a fact that's probably going to be a AV8B or an F4F Ice. Either one, just turn around. It's not that hard. And don't get me wrong, I despise the BVR method that is running at an enemy and then seeing something get launched at you and then turning around at Mach 1.8 at 10,000 meters. But the point of this is not to discuss what I dislike. The point of this is to discuss how inherently disgustingly broken this plane is at the BR in which it sits. And don't even get me started about the J8F. The Kfir C10 is essentially better than that plane in every single aspect, and it gets twice the Fox 3s. Now, with its quote-unquote peers out of the way, let's go over other possible threats that you might encounter when flying the C10. Not always going to be a Fox 3. Sometimes there are legitimate Fox 1 threats out there. For example, the R-27ER is still potentially a threat to you depending on the situation. But what these encounters usually boil down to is you get caught off guard, the R-27ER is launched within a range where it can reach you, and worst case, you turn in, get an off-board HMS lock, launch your derby, try and notch, you fail, and you trade. That's really what it comes down to. Your worst case scenario, usually if you're playing right, turns down to, oh no, I traded. So let's go over the things that make this plane so incredibly overpowered. First and foremost, its radar. It gets one of the very few ASA radars in the game at 13.0. Some can argue that it is actually better than the Rafales as far as its scope scales. That comes down to personal preference. I'm not here to debate which one is better and which one is worse. I personally deeply enjoy the Kfir C10's radar. I have nothing to complain about it. Radars that you're likely going to face are MiG-29 radars. If you've ever used one of those, you know how it's not necessarily horrible, but it's no ASA, that's for sure. The occasional F-18 radar, which is arguably going to be the best radar that you're going to face, with the Gripen A being an honorable mention, and then everything else not having TWS. Planes like the F-15J, F-16AJ, F-16MLU, and these are only the cream of the crop. The tippy top, your fellow 13.0 quote-unquote peers. More likely you're going to be facing a MiG-29G or a MiG-29 at 12.7, the Russian one. And not to mention the Mirage 2000, which has a great radar, it has TWS, but it's locked to a head-on mode. How do you beat that? Notch and chaff once. That's it. To put it in perspective, not only do you have the single greatest radar at your BR range, you have arguably one of the best radars in the entire game that can outdo planes like, oh no, the Eurofighter, the F-16C, the F-15E, anything, name it. The only thing that might contest it is going to be the Rafale and the Su-34, that's about it. So radar's out of the way. I've made it pretty clear that is its single biggest advantage at its BR bracket. But that's not the only one. There's more to go. It's got an incredibly strong and powerful digital RWR that tells it exactly what's coming at it, what's coming towards it, what's launching at you, so on and so forth. Obviously, the elephant in the room, it has access to 4 pretty good Fox 3 missiles, not the best in the world, but again, you're in a BR bracket where there's very few Fox 3 slingers at all. So just having Fox 3s in general that aren't Phoenixes and Fakurs is a huge advantage over everybody else. And the cherry on top is it's an airframe that can BVR at high altitude, pushing the speeds of Mach 2.2. Speeds only achievable by planes that are already at 14.0, like the F-15E and the Eurofighter that we've already talked about. So weaknesses, right? It's got to have some. Every plane struggles somewhere. That's not unique to anything. If you have a plane that has a stronger radar than anything else in its BR bracket, arguably better missiles than everything else, an engine that can push it to limits in which it can just run from any losing fight, where does this powerhouse of a plane actually falter? Where does it struggle? It struggles in the 1% of fights where you get caught off guard so badly that you have to dive down to the deck. You can't run from your target, so you have to engage them or get shot in the ass. But even still, this unwinnable situation, right? You got one more trick up your sleeve. HMD. You can slave that incredibly powerful radar and use those pretty okay dogfight missiles to hopefully squeeze out a win. It all comes full circle. Back to the radar. Back to the missiles. This plane is just the epitome of easy mode. That's it. That's just what it is. The only thing that can contest you is an equally competent player in a plane that can launch Fox 3s and force you into defensive posture, and that's it. And then, again, you just run away. You're in a plane that's faster than everything else. Just go back to your airfield. And yet we have planes like the Su-27 and the Su-33 that are in top tier hell. They're at 13.3 for whatever reason. They will never see a 13.0 lobby. But somehow the Kfir C10, in all of its greatness, is sitting at a comfortable BR of 13.0. And the funny thing is about all this, you don't really see many people play this plane in a BVR manner. They just run on the deck just like every other plane, launch a Fox 3 in the head-on, it gets multipath, and then they merge, and usually lose. Whenever I play against the Kfir C10, I don't struggle. It's people just don't understand how strong this plane actually is and how deep the power creep goes with this one. And I get it, it's an event vehicle, right? Usually people that have access to event vehicles might not be the average sim player, or they might not be an above average sim player. It could just be your average Joe that just wants to try out sim with one of his event vehicles, and that's it. Or it could be that the more experienced players out there understand what the Kfir C10 is, and that it is the definition of power creep incarnate, and it's just too unfair and they just don't want to touch it. There's always forum posts about the current meta, you know, the Rafale, the Eurofighter, the F-15E, even the Gripen C still. and how ridiculously broken these planes are, or how they're not performing well enough to compete with the others, or power creep this and power creep that until we just keep going up and up and up and up, right? That's all everybody ever talks about. Because I get it, right? With each update, that's what people want to talk about. The current meta, right? 13.0 is gone. It's done for, right? We care about 14.0 now, right? 13.0 is old news. We see flashy and shiny, we see the Rafale, and we see the Eurofighter, and that's it. That's all we care about now. So what's the point of all this? Whoa, what am I talking about? Why does this matter? If 14.0 is just all we have, right? That's what everybody cares about. Why bring up a problem without some sort of corrective action or fix? That is just stupid. Well, it's very simple. The fix would just be to include a new bracket of 13.3. We had the update. We had the new BR of 14.0 added, right? Historically speaking, when that happens, when we get a BR increase, the brackets rotate for Sim, right? What should have happened with 14.0 is a new bracket of 13.3, where the planes like the Kfir C10 can be contested by planes like the MiG-29 SMT, or even the Su-34, or by God, the Su-27 sitting at 13.3 for whatever reason. There's planes that can contest it and should be contesting it right now, but we just don't have that. There is no 13.3 bracket. It's just 13.3 to 14.0 or 13.0 to 14.0. That's it. There is no 12.3 to 13.3. That right there, 12.3 to 13.3, that is the fix. Done. It's over. The Kfir C10 is still a very strong plane, right? But now it has competition. Now it has planes that can actually contest it equally and well, and more of them. Now, don't get me wrong. The Su-34, that's kind of a long shot in my opinion. It sits at 13.3 right now. If we were to get a new bracket rotation of 12.3 to 13.3, I am of the opinion that the Su-34 should probably go up to 13.7. It is a multi-role monster. It has an incredibly good radar. Its flight model sucks, but the amount of missiles that it can take and the amount of munitions it can take would be, again, just the same conversation we're having right now about the Kfir C10, but it would just be reversed as all. Right now, top tier, I would argue, is in a pretty healthy position. We have planes like the Eurofighter and the Rafale that are able to play on both sides and can hopefully balance each other out. And with the new update, we'll have the Su-30 and the J-11B. That's going to benefit mainly OPFOR, obviously, right? But again, we still have planes like the Rafale and the Eurofighter that can contest those. We can't all just focus on the 14.0 and the tippy top and the oh shiny. We still need to focus on the lower BRs, right? The 13.0s and the 12.0s and even below. We got to remember, 14.0 isn't the only place people play. There's other BR brackets out there. Not everybody has a tree that's completed or a couple trees that are completed. Some people are still at 11.0 or even below. There's people in every area. And if we want the sim community to grow, we need balance. And this is hopefully maybe a discussion on how we can balance a very specific area. Not quite top tier, but pretty goddamn close. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Kfir C10. It's incredibly broken. It is, in my opinion, the definition of power creep right now. It can just do things that its opponents cannot. Simple as that. And really, my hope going forward is just that things get balanced out. That's really it. Anyways, I hope to see you guys out there. Maybe catch a live stream from time to time. I know I'm not doing as much long form content as I was before. Streaming is kind of scratching an itch that I am enjoying a little bit more than recording and doing long form content. But that's not to say that I'm going to stop doing it. I'll still continue to do it. Maybe on a monthly basis, we'll see. And if you guys want to hang out in a cool community, check the description. I got a link to my Discord in there. Maybe check out a VOD or two. If it's content that interests you, maybe subscribe. Catch a live stream sometime. I'm always happy to interact with the community. That's the whole point of this channel, is to help Sim grow. That's it. I hope to see you guys out there. Peace.